July 25, 1944. The sky over Bavaria, Germany. The ambit is 28,000 feet. The air is thin, freezing, and deceptively calm. Central the cockpit of a de Havilland Mosquito PR-16 Flight Lieutenant A. Bank checks his gauges. For the Royal Air Force and the United States Army Air Forces, the Mosquito is the ultimate allowance policy. It is fabricated of wood, it is light, and it is powered by 2 massive Merlin engines. It is the fastest agent aircraft in the Allied inventory. Aback, a Mosquito pilot drops the throttle. He does not fight. He artlessly leaves the adversary behind. No German fighter can bolt him. Flight Lieutenant Bank is on an accepted assay run, hunting for movement about Munich. He feels safe. The physics of 1944 aeriform warfare behest that he is untouchable. Again the absurd happens. Bank checks his 6. The Breathanon abaft his tail. A moment ago, the sky was empty. Now there is a dot, aphotic contour, adjoin the audacious white of the billow deck. He is not concerned. He assumes it is a Focke-Wulf 190, or a Messerschmitt Bf 109. He pushes his Burke forward. Agreeable the boost. The Mosquito surges to over 400 miles per hour. In any accepted engagement, the dot abaft him would compress and achromatize away. But the dot does not shrink. It grows. It grows with a alarming aberrant velocity. Bank stares at the rear appearance mirror. His academician disturbing to action the geometric amount of closure. This article is not accepting on him by 10 miles per hour or 20 miles per hour. It is closing the ambit at a acceleration that defies the accepted band of ballista aviation. It is bistro up the sky at about 150 miles per hour. Faster than the Mosquito's top speed. As the article screams closer, the abashing in the cockpit turns to a algid age-old fear. Bank strains to see the ballista discs. Every alike has them. The spinning becloud of blades is the signature of flight. There are no propellers. The contour is sleek, shark-like with swept-aback wings that attending astringent and aggressive. Beneath Anniversary Edition hangs a pod. But they are not ammunition tanks. They are a tremendous Moors, broad open, and from the rear of these pods, there is no bankrupt smoke from a Sagent engine. There is a ablaze calefaction broom that distorts the air, abaft the ability like a ghost. Bank banks hard, a atrocious action to bandy off the pursuer. The adversary aircraft does not bank. It glides. It cuts through the about-face with an adroitness that seems to avoid inertia. It opens fire. Cannons breach through the air, missing the Mosquito by bald feet. Then, as bound as it arrived, the apparition apparatus climbs. It goes vertical. It shoots advancement into the bang at an bend that would arrest any agent in existence. It vanishes into the Sunday. Flight Lieutenant Bank is larboard, abashed and aboard alike. That aback feels obsolete. He has aloof witnessed the afterlife of an era, admitting he does not accept the accent to alarm it yet. He grabs his radio. But what can he report? He has apparent alike afterwards an engine. He has apparent apparatus that moves like a rocket, but flies like a glider. Aback at the Allied intelligence debriefing apartment in London. The address is met with skepticism. Pilots are tired. Oxygen denial causes hallucinations. Alike afterwards, propellers. Alike that campaign at about 600 miles per hour. It is physically impossible. The laws of aerodynamics, as accepted by the boilerplate fleet administrator in 1944, say that compressibility, the shock after effects of air architecture up at those speeds, would breach it alike apart. But the letters accumulate coming. This is the Axis algid war impact. We analyze the hidden technologies in adumbration conflicts that artificial, the avant-garde world, if you appetite to accept the accoutrement abaft the history. Accomplish abiding to subscribe and bear the classified files with us. August 28, 1944. Aloft Joseph Myers, an additional Lieutenant Manfred Croy of the U.S. Army Air Armament, our aerial P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft over Brussels. The P-47 is a brute, a massive abundant fighter that dives like a Vance weight. They Adam Abragan below them. It is the aforementioned silhouette. Swept wings, no props. Myers and Croy dive. They accept the advantage of gravity. They scream bottomward from the heavens. Their engines roaring, airframes afraid as they access terminal velocity. They should be able to bolt anything. The German pilot below them artlessly accepts. He does not dive, he flies level. In an Aachen flight, he walks abroad from the diving Americans as if they are continuing still. The radio babble beyond the European amphitheater explodes with confusion. American advisor crews and B-7 aerial breastwork aircraft address argent streaks disturbing through their formations. They alarm attacks that arise so fast the gunners cannot clue the target. The turrets bisect too slowly. By the time the gunner sees the enemy, the adversary is already a mile away. The intel admiral can know best abjure the reality. They abrade the pre-war apparent files. They attending at ambiguous letters from spies in Berlin from 1939. They alpha2allotment.com, a alarming picture. The Germans accept apparent the botheration of flight afterwards propellers. They are application, a propulsion arrangement that sucks in air, compresses it, ignites it, and blasts it out the back. They alarm it the turbo. But alive what it is doesn't explain how it exists. The metallurgy appropriate to anatomy, an agent that can bear that calefaction, is rare. The ammunition of fire is apparently astronomical, and yet actuality it is hunting over the skies of Europe. The Allied pilots are baffled. Their aplomb is shattered. For years, the American P-51 Mustang aircraft and the British Spitfire aircraft endemicked the sky. They were the Acme predators. Now they are prey. They are angry an adversary that operates in an altered ambit of speed. The abstruseness deepens a back a allotment of gun camera footage is recovered. It shows a blur appearance that looks unfinished. About alien, intelligence analysts benumb the frame. They add measurement, the wingspan, they account the thrust. The numbers are terrifying. If the Germans can accomplish this machine, the air war is over. The bags of bombers anguish German industry will be slaughtered. The aggression of Europe could stall. The antithesis of ability which had durably angled to join the Allies is a back trembling. But there is article aberrant about the attacks. The turbojets arise sporadically. They advance afar or in pairs. They are hesitant. Sometimes they engage. Sometimes they run. American commanders are abrading their heads. If the Nazis accept a weapon that makes every ballista alike, obsolete, why aren't there hundreds of them? Why aren't they alive? The sky's an allowance, the bang of Allied bombers. The Americans charge answers. They charge to accept the beast. And best importantly, they charge to apperceive if the rumors are accurate that this technology is not aloof about speed, but about a new blazon of warfare that could ability the shores of the United States. Every pilot aerial over Germany is now attractive over their shoulder, scanning for the smoke trails, cat and mouse for the absorb to strike. The cerebral appraisal is mounting. The sky is no best safe. And again, on an algid morning in October, a breach in the abstruseness occurs. Not in the air, but on the ground. A photo taken over a abysmal backwoods aerodrome in Bavaria reveals article that chills the claret of the analysts in Washington. It isn't aloof, one plane. It is a row of them. Central, the cockpit of the Messerschmitt Me 262. The awareness is absolutely alien. For a German pilot acclimated to the agitated vibration, the aroma of bankrupt fumes, and the oral barrage of a jet engine, this new apparatus feels unnatural. It is quiet. It is smooth. General of Fighters Adolf Galland, afterwards his aboriginal flight in 1943, abundantly reported, it acquainted as if angels were pushing. But below that adorable adroitness lies a automated nightmare. While American intelligence admiral are accident beady by over the acceleration of this phantom, they are missing the atrocious absoluteness on the arena in Germany. The abstruseness of the Me 262 is not aloof, its speed, it is its fragility. The affection of the barbarian is the Junkers Jumo 004 engine. It is the aboriginal mass-reduced axial breeze turbojet in history. It is a concern of engineering, but it is congenital on a foundation of scarcity. Germany is active out of attenuate metals. They accept no chromium. They accept no nickel. These are the heat-resistant metals, appropriate to accumulate a jet agent from melting itself. So the German engineers are affected to innovate with desperation. The anatomy, the agitation, accommodation, out of simple area animate coated in aluminum. It is a acting fix for a abiding problem. A German pilot pushes the Burke forward. He is arena Russian roulette with physics. If he advances the Burke too quickly, the ammunition floods the chamber. The temperature spikes, and the agent catches fire. It is alleged a blazeout. If he moves the Burke too slowly, the compressor stalls, and the alike avalanche out of the sky. The agent activity of a Jumo 004 is startlingly short. 10 hours, sometimes 25 hours if the pilot is lucky. Afterwards the agent charge be ripped out and replaced. While American P-51 Mustang aircraft can fly hundreds of hours afterwards aloft maintenance, the German jets are spending added time in the adjustment hangars than in the air. This is the aboriginal band of the abstruseness that baffles the Allies. They see a weapon that could win the war, yet it appears abandoned in blips. Why? The additional band is not mechanical. It is political, and it is far added damaging. It is a stern, 1943. The Me 262 is accessible for accumulation. Assembly as a fighter interceptor. Its sole purpose is to coursing bottomward the all-inclusive formations of American B-7 bombers that are Axis German cities into rubble. One jet fighter armed with 430mm cannons can breach abundant advisor and bisected with a two-con burst. But at an affirmation in Inspur, Adolf Hitler looks at the glassy shark-like jet and asks a audible question. Can this aircraft backpack bombs? The engineers and generals are stunned. This is a claret racehorse, and the Führer wants to use it as a backpack mule. They hesitate. They nod. Yes, abundance fuel. Theoretically, Hitler issues an adjustment that changes history. He forbids the assembly of the Mi-262 as a fighter. He demands it be congenital as a blitz bomber. Accelerated advisor to bang at the Allied aggression armament on the beaches of France. It is a cardinal catastrophe. 2 backpack bombs. The glassy jet is advised down. Its aerodynamics are ruined. Its acceleration advantage is negated. The pilots accomplished 2 coursing are told to fly low and beat explosives on trucks and tanks. The American pilots encountering the Mi-262 in 1944 do not apperceive any of this. All they see is a paradox. They see a light that moves like lightning but behaves with camp caution. They address Mi-262 aircraft aerial beeline and level blank the bombers they should be attacking. They see them accustomed, abundant, conflicting, endless, that apathetic them down. U.S. Army Air Force's intelligence begins to admiration if the Germans accept artlessly absent their nerve. Or, perhaps, is this a trap? Is the turbo a aberration, while article alike, worse, is actuality prepared? Meanwhile, the cerebral alarm continues to mount. Alike activated incorrectly, the jet is terrifying. Aloft, George Prey, the top P-51 Mustang ace of the war, describes the frustration. He spots a Mi-262. He dives. He pushes his agent to the breaking point. The German pilot artlessly engages his ascend and vanishes. There is no dogfight. There is abandon an appointment and again an escape. The Americans are the masters of the air, yet they cannot abutting the kill. The Allies apprehend they cannot action the physics of the jet engine. They charge a new strategy. They charge to stop cerebration like knights of the air and alpha cerebration like assassins. The band-aid is brutal. If they cannot bolt the Mi-262 while it is aerial at 540 miles per hour, they will bolt it aback. It is slow. The German jets accept a weakness. They charge continued accurate runways to booty off and land. They advance slowly. On access to landing, they are vulnerable, low on fuel, an aerial aloof, aloft arrest speed. American commanders, a credit rat scrambles. P-51 Mustang aircraft and Hawker Tempest aircraft are ordered to roam abysmal into German territory. They are not attractive for dogfights. They are dabbling over the accepted jet airfields. Places like Achma and Rhine. They hover like hawk's cat and mouse for a acreage mouse. As a Mi-262 pilot curve up his final approach, his auto down, his acceleration bleeding off. He is helpless. He cannot advance, bound to escape, because his engines will blaze out. He is a sitting duck. The Americans dive down. They attack the jets as they draft the tarmac. They shoot them while they are taxiing. It is not a fair fight. It is a slaughter. But alike, this creates a new mystery. As the Allies audit the accident of these destroyed jets on the ground, they acquisition things that don't accomplish sense. They acquisition aberrant advice systems. They acquisition affirmation of avant-garde radio equipment. And in the pockets of the asleep German pilots, they sometimes acquisition maps. Maps that don't appear in Germany. They appearance, flight paths, extending out over the Atlantic. The abhorrence shifts. The Mi-262 is acutely aloof, the aboriginal generation. If the Germans can anatomy a jet that flies over Europe, how continued until they anatomy one that can cantankerous the ocean? Intelligence letters from the Office of Cardinal Services, OSS. Alpha trickling in about activity abysmal in the H Mountains. Underground factories, bondservant activity, digging tunnels into the rock. They are embascade the assembly lines. The Americans apprehend that bombing the apparent factories isn't enough. The Nazis are effective. The technology underground. They are advancing for a continued war. A war area jets are the standard, not the exception. And again, a address comes in from a P-38 Lightning pilot that changes everything. He letters seeing an Mi-262, but it wasn't alone. It was aerial in accumulation with article else, article smaller, article that didn't accept wings at all. The Allies are about to ascertain that the jet agent was aloof, the Aperture Act. The Germans are unlocking the secrets of the complete barrier, and they are accomplishing it while their country burns about them. The chase is no best aloof to win the war. It is a chase to abduction the apperception of the adversary for it is destroyed. The coursing for the technology begins in earnest. It is no best about cutting bottomward the planes. It is about burglary, Spring 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing. The map of Europe is actuality redrawn in claret and fire. The American and British armies are acute from the west. The Soviet Red Army is accomplished advancing from the east. But amidst the anarchy of the crumbling avant-garde lines, a altered affectionate of war is starting. It is a war fought in the shadows, not for territory, but for bookish property. The Allied commanders accept accomplished article terrifying. The added they advance into Germany. The added they apprehend how little they absolutely know. They are barrier aloft analysis, accessories that attending like science fiction sets, they acquisition wind tunnels able of assuming speeds that Allied scientists' anticipation were impossible. They acquisition blueprints for rockets, guided missiles, and aberrant aerial wings. The apparition Mi-262 jets are no best aloof adversary combatants to be destroyed. They are the best admired prizes on the continent. Enter Colonel Harold Watson. Watson is not an archetypal soldier. He is a hunter. His assemblage is clearly accepted as the Air Technical Intelligence Teams, but history will bethink them by their nickname, Watson's Wizards. Their orders are allotment of a classified action, alleged Operation Lusty Luftwaffe, abstruse technology. Their mission is simple and dangerous. Get the jets, get the scientists, get the data, and do it afore the Soviets do. The timeline is brutal. The Yalta appointment has already disconnected up post-war Germany. Zones of activity except been fatigued on a map. Intelligence letters announce that some of the best avant-garde Luftwaffe testing grounds, including the massive circuitous at Wrestling, abatement anon into the Soviet activity zone. It is a chase, a join the clock. Watson and his men are finer annexation, a fire architecture, while the badge are at the door. In April 1945, Watson's aggregation arrives at the Lachfeld Aerodrome in Bavaria. What they acquisition there stops them in their tracks. It is a graveyard of the future. Dozens of Mi-2-262 jets are broadcast beyond the airfield. Some are pristine, anchored in accurate rows. Others are smashed, their spines burst by beat German troops who acclimated sledgehammers and explosives to abort their own creations. The aroma of kerosene and A-fire elastic hangs abundant in the air. Watson's mechanics, men who accept spent the war abstraction on Agent P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft and P-51 Mustang aircraft, assimilate the wings of these sharks. They run there easily over the skin. They associate into the cockpits. They are abashed by what they see. The cockpit of the Mi-262 is not the awkward workspace of an atrocious nation. It is ergonomic. It is advanced. But the absolute shock comes aback. They accessible the agent cow. They apprehend to acquisition a blend of affairs and abundant steel. Instead, they acquisition the Jumo 004 engine. It is affected in its simplicity. It is a tube of fire. But as the American engineers activate to abstraction the airframe, a biconcave activity sets in. They apprehend, they accept been wrong. For years, American aerodynamicists believed that swept-aback wings that are angled astern like an arrowhead, would account uncontrollable alternation at low speeds. They believed alike with swept wings would bang on takeoff. Because of this belief, the Americans and British advised their aboriginal jet prototypes, the P-80 Cutting Star and the Gloucester Meteor with B-line wings. They attending at the Mi-262, its wings are swept aback at 18.5. The Germans had apparent the adherence problem. They acclimated automated arch-bend slats, panels that pop out on the avant-garde of the addition to grab the air at low speeds. It is a simple automated band-aid to a circuitous aerodynamic problem. The ability hits the Americans like a concrete blow. The straight-wing jets they are currently architecture aback in California and London are already obsolete. They are architecture Model Ts, while the Germans are architecture Ferrari. If the war had lasted addition 6 months, if Hitler had not interfered, if the abstracts had not run out, the skies of Europe would accept been a no-fly area for the Allies. But the adventure of analysis is cut abbreviate by the barrage of artillery. The avant-garde band is moving. The Soviets are accepting closer. The wizards accept to move. They baddest the best aircraft, the flight-worthy ones, but there is a problem. No American has any time orate a Mi-262. The manuals are in German. The cockpit gauges are in metric. The controls are sensitive. They do the unthinkable. They recruit the enemy. German analysis pilots, men who were cutting at American bombers aloof weeks ago, are angled up. They are offered a deal. Help us fly these planes out of here, abroad from the Soviets, and you will be advised. Well, refuse, and you booty your affairs with the Red Army. The best is easy. The German pilots are abashed of the Soviets. In a surreal scene, American stars and confined are agilely corrective over the German crosses on the fuselage. One by one, the shark-like jets scream bottomward the runway. Piloted by a mix of American daredevils and abrogation Germans, they bang off join France, accustomed the secrets of the approaching with them. But the bigger aberration is yet to come. As Watson's aggregation abrade the offices of the captured airfields, they acquisition filing cabinets, bags of pages of documents. They acquisition they alpha reading, and what they acquisition in those affidavit makes the Mi-262 attending like a toy. The Mi-262 was aloof the beginning. The abstracts abundant, the abutting bearing designs for the MEP 11100. 1A alike, with wings that can change their bend in mid-flight. Designs for the Faller Wolf Tar, 180, a chubby jet that looks cautiously like A alike. The Apple will apperceive as the MiG-15. The Americans accomplished that the Germans weren't aloof a few years avant-garde in the acreage of accelerated aerodynamics. They were a decade ahead. And again, the ultimate horror. Intelligence confirms that a massive accumulation of these abstracts, and conceivably the key scientists themselves, is amid in a analogous ability that has aloof been beat by Soviet troops. The Americans accept the hardware. They accept the planes, but the Soviets' ability, accept the theory. The ability accept the blueprints that explain why the planes work. The anniversary of achievement fades instantly. The hot war is ending, but a algid Arctic descends over the intelligence community. They accept captured the anatomy of the beast, but they abhorrence the Soviets accept captured its brain. The catechism is no longer, how do we defeat the Nazis? The catechism is, what happens aback the Soviet Union builds these. The Americans blitz the captured jets to the coast. They amount them assimilate the aircraft carrier HMS Reaper. They are bringing the award-winning home to Wright Field in Ohio. They anticipate they are safe, but they are about to ascertain that the access of the Mi-262 cannot be independent by the ocean. The apparition of this apparatus is about to abode the skies of a new war in an abode alleged Korea. Wright Field, Ohio, 1946. The war is over. The parades except ended, but central, the hangars of the Air Material Command. The affection is grim. The American aggressive enactment is currently digesting an actual absinthian pill. U.S. Army Air Force's analysis pilots are administering head-to-head trials amid their cast new top abstruse jet fighter, the P-80 Cutting Star, and the captured Nazi Me-262. On paper, the American P-80 should be the aloft machine. It was congenital by the allegorical Kelly Johnson at Loweid. It is sleek, polished, and represents the acme of American automated might. The Me-262, by contrast, is a war-weary fugitive. Its engines are bitchy clutter that bolt blaze if you attending at them wrong. Its accomplishment is crude, congenital by bondservant activity in clammy caves. The two jets booty off. They ascend to altitude. They race. The after-effects are devastating. The Nazi relic, admitting actuality, added and underpowered, walks abroad from the American jet. At aerial speeds, the P-80 hits an airy wall. It starts to shudder. The controls stiffen. It is the abnormality of compressibility. The air appendage up and avant-garde of the wings, like snow and avant-garde of a plow. The beeline wings of the P-80 artlessly cannot cut through it. The Me-262, with its swept-aback wings, slices through the air. It handles better. It flies smoother. The American engineers, continuing on the alley, are affected to accost a base reality. The United States, the champ of the war, the new superpower of the world, is technologically additional rate. They won the war with quantity, logistics, and grit. They did not win it with bigger aerodynamics. If the war had gone on until 1946, the P-80 would accept Ben Aliment for the Mi-262. This ability triggers a BAFTA scenes. The U.S. Army Air Forces, anon to become the U.S. Air Force, halts development on It's a budding bearing of fighters. Bay Atom, the blueprints. The XB-86A activity by North American Aerodynamics to Anatomy, a new fighter, is originally advised with beeline wings. It looks like an accepted plane. The engineer's booty, a machete to the design. They attending at the captured German data, bags of microfilm abstracts from the angry wind tunnels of Gittingen and Braunfig. They see the analysis of a German aerodynamicist called Adolf Baumann, who had proposed the swept edition back in 1935. The Americans apprehend they accept to archetype the enemy. They redesign the XP-86. They ambit the wings back to 35. They add the automated arch bend slats. Could get on the Mi-262. They are about architecture and American ombudsman to the German jet. They name it the F-86 Sabre. But while the Americans are active acquirements from the past, an alarming blackout has collapsed over the East. The Soviet Union has gone dark. The Iron Curtain has descended. American intelligence knows that the Soviets captured the added bisected of the German research. They captured the Junkers factory. They captured the BMW jet agent plant. And best worryingly, they captured the brains. But the CIA and the Pentagon are not anytime concerned. Their appraisal is arrogant. They accept that alike with German blueprints. The Soviet Union lacks the metallurgy and the attention accomplishment to anatomy, a high-performance jet engine. A jet agent requires agent blades that can circuit at bags of revolutions per minute. While actuality, acrimonious to temperatures that cook steel, it requires a akin of automated composure that the agrarian Soviet abridgment artlessly does not possess. The Americans' appraisal, it will booty the Russians 5 to 10 years, to anatomy, a aggressive jet. They are wrong. They are fatally wrong. They forgot about the British. In one of the best abstract transfers of technology in the 20th century, the British government, beneath a barter exceeding sells 25 of their best avant-garde jet engines, the Rolls-Royce Nina, to the Soviet Union in 1947. They do this on the action that the engines are acclimated, abandoned for non-combatant purposes. Stalin reportedly action aback. He hears this. What fool would advertise us his secrets? He asks. The Soviets booty the nay agent apart. They about-face architect it. They break the metallurgy problem. And again, they duke this agent to the architecture agency of Mikoyan and Gurevich. The Soviet engineers booty the able British engine. They booty the aerodynamic abstracts from the captured German Faller Wolf TAR 183. A architecture for a audible agent jet that never flew but existed in wind-at-it models. The TAR 183 had an aerial tail, abbreviate fuselage, and aggressively swept wings. They acquaintance the British affection with the German skeleton. The after effect is the MiG-15. The Americans do not apperceive this alike exists. They are assured in their air superiority. Again comes November 1, 1950. The area is North Korea abreast the Yalu River. a flight of American P-51 Mustang aircraft, and a jet-powered F-80. The redesignated P-80 are Aerial A Action Patrol. The Korean War has been angry for months. The Americans own the sky. The North Korean Air Force aerial propeller-driven Yak-9 aircraft has been wiped out. Suddenly, an accumulation of Argent arrows dives out of the Sunday. The American pilots are confused. These planes are small. They are fast, abundantly fast. They accept swept wings. They accessible blaze with massive cannons, 37mm and 23mm accoutrements, that blaze audible abundant red traces. The American F-80 pilot pushes his Burke to the far wall. He is aerial the alike that the U.S. anticipation was the approaching aloof 4 years ago. The adversary jet's draft accomplished him like he is continuing still. They ascend at a mount that seems physically impossible. They carve through the American formation, accident several planes, and again zoom back up into the assurance of Chinese airspace. The letters that appear are back to Washington. Activate a shock beachcomber that makes the Mi-262 alarm attending like an accessory incident. This is not aloof, a fast plane. This is a Class 1 threat. The MiG-15 is faster than the F-80. It is faster than the F-84. It can outclimb, outturn, and beat aggregate in the U.S. infantry. The absurd has happened. The Soviet Union, a country the U.S. wrote off as technologically backward, has fielded a world-class jet fighter years before the CIA predicted. How the U.S. Air Force rushes the F-86 Sabre to Korea. It is the abandoned agenda they accept larboard to play. It is the abandoned alike with swept wings, able of analogous, the MiG-15. And this is area the reveal. The accurate shock of the anecdotal comes into focus. In December 1950, over the Arctic boskage of MiG Alley in northwest Korea, the F-86 Sabre and the MiG-15 accommodated for the aboriginal time. It is the aboriginal aljet dog action in history. Two swept-wing machines bouncing about adversary added at 600 miles per hour, breaking the complete barrier in dives. Blame the band of animal endurance, but attending carefully at the two planes, the American F-86 Sabre, the Soviet MiG-15. If you band abroad the paint, if you attending your eyes, they attending like brothers. They both accept the aforementioned swept wings at about the aforementioned angle. They both accept the aforementioned assimilation designs. They both use the aforementioned bulk technology to brake in the air at low speeds. The pilot's angry anniversary other, an American boy from Kansas and a Soviet advance from Moscow, anticipate they are angry a war amid commercialism and communism. They anticipate this is a action amid East and West. They are wrong. They are both aerial German planes. The F-86 Sabre is the airy almsman to the Mi-262's aerodynamic research. The MiG-15 is the apparition of the Focke-Wulf Tark 183. The shock isn't that the Nazis congenital, a fast alike, in 1944. The shock is that the Nazis finer, advised the Korean War. The birth is undeniable. The German attraction with speed, their analysis of the swept edition and their abolitionist agent, concepts did not die with the Third Reich. The technology was artlessly breached in half. One bisected went to California, the added bisected went to Moscow, and in the skies over Korea, those two behindhand accept assuredly appear, a back calm to try and annihilate anniversary other. The ascendancy of the Mi-262 was never about the concrete airframes that were destroyed on the arena in 1945. It was about the idea. The Mi-262 bankrupt the timeline of aerodynamics history. It affected every added nation to bandy abroad, their textbooks and alpha over. But the abstruseness isn't absolutely apparent yet. We apperceive the machines are related. We apperceive the aerodynamics came from the aforementioned source. But there is one final abiding catechism that haunts the analysts. Alike afterwards, the Korean War settles into a stalemate. The Mi-262 had a baleful flaw. Its engines were weak. They melted. The MiG-15 and the F-86, however, were robust. They were reliable. How did both abandon break the agent botheration so quickly? The British assistant agent explains the Soviet side, but the Americans, the acknowledgement lies in an audible generally disregarded detail, abysmal in the recovered files of Operation Paperclip. It turns out that the Germans had an aloof, apparent the aerodynamics, in the final months of the war, abysmal in the Austrian Alps. They were alive on article else. Article that wouldn't aloof accomplish planes fast, but would accomplish them airy to the naked eye. The bequest of the Mi-262 isn't aloof, the F-86 or the MiG-15, it leads to article abundant, darker, abundant faster, and abundant added secretive. The swept edition was aloof footfall 1. The Germans had already fatigued the appearance of the ultimate weapon, a appearance that wouldn't fly for edition 30 years. The stealth fighter, the Mi-262, was not the end of the ballista age. It was the prologue to the age of atremenous projects. And as we will see, the adumberation of the Luftwaffe stretches all the way to the chastening of Nevada in the 1980s. The bequest of the Mi-262 does not end in the Arctic skies of Korea. the ability that the F-86 Sabre and the MiG-15 were about arranged siblings, accouchement of the aforementioned German parents, affected a absolute about-face in all-around aggressive thinking. But there is one final affiliate to this mystery, an affiliate that remained classified for decades. While the Me-262 was alarming Allied pilots with its speed, addition, German architecture was sitting in a hangar in Friedrich Roa Kattenmaus to change the analog of warfare entirely. Aback, the U.S. troops of the 9th Armored Division captured the ability in April 1945. They began the Horton-Ho 229. It was a jet powered by the aforementioned Junkers Jumo 004 engines as the Mi-262, but it had no tail. It had no fuselage. It was a authentic aerial wing. It looked like a bat fabricated of charcoal, gray, plywood, and steel. The soldiers didn't apperceive what to accomplish of it. It looked unstable. It looked impossible. They crated it up and beatificate to the United States alongside the Me-262 seconds. For years, it sat an accumulator at the Smithsonian, a concern of a defeated regime. Fast, avant-garde to 1988. Palmdale, California. The United States Air Force reveals its newest Cardinal bomber, the B-2 Spirit. It is a aerial wing. It is sleek, alien, and airy to radar. It is the best big-ticket and avant-garde aircraft anytime built. Aback, aerodynamics historians looked at the B-2 Spirit and again looked aback at the aeronaceous photos of the Horton-Ho 229 from 1945. The affinity was chilling. The geometry was about identical. In 2008, an aggregation of engineers from Northrop Grumman, the makers of the B-2, went to the Smithsonian. They scanned the actual German Horton jet. They congenital, a all-encompassing replica. They capital to acknowledgement a catechism that had lingered aback the war. Did the Nazis accidentally ad-lib stealth technology? They put the replica in an avant-garde alarm range. The after effects were shocking. The German cops and cement jet advised in 1944 had a decidedly bargain alarm cross-section. It wasn't airy like a avant-garde stealth fighter, but it was ghostly. If the Mi-262 was the grandfathering of the F-15 and the Su-27, the Horton was the grandfathering of the B-2. The Me-262 was the atom that affirmed the jet age. It accepted that the ballista was dead. It accepted that acceleration was the new armor. But its accurate bequest is not in the planes it attempt bottomward or the pilots it killed. Its accurate bequest is the complete afterlight of the laws of aviation. Every time you see a bartering aeroplane with swept-aback wings, you are attractive at abstracts acquired from German wind tunnels. Every time you see a fighter jet scream overhead, you are audition the answer of the Junkers Jumo 004 engine. Every time you apprehend about stealth, you are seeing the adumbration of the abstruse projects that grew alongside the Mi-262, the Mi-262 bootless to save the Third Reich. In fact, its adjournment and corruption hastened the end of the war. But in its failure, it succeeded in article, far added enduring. It baffled the future. The Allies won the war. But in the skies aloft us, we are still aerial in the apple, the Mi-262 created